I know a lot of people struggle with the need for approval. It's definitely like a very primal instinct for us to have. And when you think about it, like it makes sense why we have it. You know, if you don't have approval from the people around you, you know, especially like back in the days, caveman type days, like if you don't have the approval of people around you, like they genuinely might like stone you to death because, you know, if they don't trust you, you know, what if you do something bad? You know, you've really got to be a certain way, and having approval was very important in those days. But nowadays, and you know, the modern day that we live in, you don't really need the approval of other people. Like, I guess especially in the Western world, you can be a lot more independent. You really don't need the approval. Like, you can do some things that you want to, and even if everybody disagrees with you, you can still have an okay life. You may not have to deal with like severe consequences like you may have had to back in the day. And I definitely think it's beneficial to have life this way because you definitely see more people who think differently and maybe can, you know, see in by seeing it in a different way than like the crowd thinks, and not having to like look for approval, like find solutions to different problems and whatever. And I know definitely on my path, I've had to learn to stop chasing approval and make decisions that may not be very popular, that may not be very sexy, but I believe to be the right decisions, at least for my life. And it's hard because, you know, maybe if you're someone who's like experiencing this, where you're trying to be on this like different path that's different from what the majority of other people are doing, you kind of like, even though you like tell yourself, hey, I don't care what other people think, like I'm my own person, like I don't care what anybody thinks, you probably secretly still crave people's approval. You probably still crave people's attention and validation and all of that stuff. And I thought maybe that there was something wrong with me, that I couldn't like shake this feeling, like I couldn't get myself to stop caring. But now I realize that it's just like a human thing. Like, it's human for you to want to care about what other people think. If you absolutely gave no crap at all about what anybody else thought of you or anything, that might make you a psychopath, like genuinely. So it's kind of like an interesting dance between knowing that you have to do something that may not get you the approval of people, especially in the immediate term, but is ultimately like the best decision to make in the long term, versus doing the thing which may be popular, which may get you a lot of approval right now, versus doing the thing which may get you a lot of approval right now, but you know in like your deepest hearts of hearts that it isn't the best decision to make, especially in the long term. It's hard to deal with this, and I think you can definitely like strike a balance. At least that's what I'm trying to do. And I don't really think or know if there's a perfect answer of how to deal with this. Like you think of a lot of examples in history, like I don't know the name of the guy, but it's like the guy who proposed the idea of the world being, no, it wasn't that. It was the guy who proposed like the sun being like the center of the solar system rather than it being the earth. And you think about it, like everybody around him, like in like that time period, everybody hated him. They thought he was like stupid or whatever. And, you know, he died with a lot of that disapproval and people thinking like he was an idiot or whatever. But by him having that assertion and like living with that assertion and sticking with that decision, well, now we have a better understanding that, hey, we are not the center of our solar system, and that the sun is the center of our solar system. Like, little small example, but it goes to show that following the crowd, following things just for the approval of others, it may not be the best decision. It usually might be the best decision. Like, usually the crowd is right, but for a lot of decisions still, a lot of things or assertions that we may have, the crowd is wrong. And you have to be willing and have enough confidence in yourself, in faith in what you're doing, and when you know that something is right, not to sway away from that, not to be pulled in the other direction just because you want the approval of other people. There's so many examples in my life where there's something that I believe to be true, like a standpoint that I had for myself, whether it was moral or just like the direction that I wanted to go in life. And the people around me would just give me crap for it. And I couldn't explain it. I couldn't explain it in a way that they would understand. I just knew for myself that this is what I believed was right. This was what was right for me. I didn't necessarily want to go outright and judge them like, hey, you should do the same thing. It was more so, hey, this is just a standard that I have for myself. This is what I choose to believe in. And people will give you crap for it. And I guess it's natural. People want to influence other people to be like them. I think that's maybe a natural thing. But if you know that you're right, you have to stick with your guns. You have to stick with it, because ultimately you're doing not only yourself but the world a favor by sticking out and sticking with what it is, whatever truth that you have to yourself. Because many people may not understand it, but I don't know, by being inauthentic, by lying to yourself, you're not really serving anyone. If you were the only person who knew the truth about something really important, and just to please the crowd, you decided, okay, well, I'm just gonna follow, what everybody else is saying. And because you did that, now everybody else is suffering more. Yeah, you may have gotten the approval of something. Yeah, you may have been able to fit in with the crowd, but were you ultimately really serving those people? Were you ultimately really doing a service to the world by lying to yourself and others? At some point, you've just got to learn to grow a pair and stick with your guns. You've got to be okay with that uncertain feeling that you may be wrong, but you believe that you're right, but you feel like you may be wrong because other people think that you're wrong. And you're kind of having this mental, I don't know, just confusion of not knowing what to do. You've got to be able to rest with that. At least that's something that I've had to learn for myself. Because I promise you, as you grow more and more in life, you're going to start realizing truths for yourself that other people just aren't going to understand. And you may try to explain it to them. You may try to get them to understand your perspective, but they may not understand, and that's completely fine. But that does not mean that you have to sugarcoat or pretend like the truth isn't the truth and just lie to yourself for the sake of being approved by other people. It's definitely a tall order, and not everybody's going to want to do it. I definitely understand the desire to be comfortable, the desire to fit in with everybody and not really stick out. But at least for my life, I know that I'm willing to sacrifice a lot of comfort for whatever the greater good might be. I really don't know what that might be, but from what I understand, from what perspectives that I can perceive, I'm just going to try to do the best for whatever greater good I can perceive, if that makes sense. Because I don't think I could really be proud of living a life where I knew that I lied just for the approval of other people. And, I'm on my deathbed just thinking, what if I would have been more authentic? What if I really would have lived my life instead of living the life that other people thought I should live? It's kind of it's an interesting thing to think about, I think. But if you got some value or some insights from this video, leave a like, subscribe. Peace out.